Well, here we are back again. Today's goal is to get the last few stakes, crutches, one penetration, and a few other trinkets that we need to do to be 100% ready for pouring and then getting concrete in the hole today. Let's get this going. All right, so as you can see on this print, we have a closet inside this master bath. We're going to utilize this closet as a laundry room, and we're going to put a dryer on this side and a washer on that side and have a 5-foot area in between the two for some type of, I don't know if it's going to be racking or some type of closet unit, sink maybe. Haven't really figured out what we're going to do in between, but I do know since this is only a 3-foot 1 deep closet, I can't put my washer and dryer side by side and still be able to utilize these outside edges. So we're going to put a dryer here, put a washer here, and that will ensure that we do have space in between for some type of storage and or shelving that you can hang up clothes, etc., etc. So the dryer vent is essentially going to be 11 foot 2 over. We will drop it into this floor system / wall, go straight down, and then come out and dump out this side. The reason I want to dump it out this side is eventually this is all going to have a sidewalk and steps that get to a door that is the exterior access or exit from the inside, whichever way you want to call it. And that door lands from here to here, which puts our 11 foot 2 off of that wall here. And since that wall we know falls off on that side, I'm going to pull a dimension from the outside corner of the ICF. As you guys saw in a couple of videos ago, this is square, straight, and plumb. So that is a good defined point where the castle is not. So if we hook the outside edge of that ICF, that dryer essentially is going to go at 8 foot 11 3/4 of an inch. We'll go over there and pull that same dimension and cut our penetration for the dryer vent. Well, all right, we pulled our 8 foot 11 3/4 over. That puts us really close to this stud, so we're just going to go right off the edge of this stud. And all you got to do, oh, by the way, we remember our floor joists are going to be flush with this top edge, and these blocks are 12 inches tall. So in order for me to hide this in the floor system, I know that I'm going to go from here to that line right there. So all I have to do is ensure that I am within that block. Take that piece, push it in there like so. Now I have a nice template to cut out. I'm going to cut it with a Sawzall. This does not have to be perfect. I will foam around this thing. The concrete will not come out of there. Now all we got to do is get our center point of that hole, so we make sure that our hole on the inside is at the exact same elevation and get it cut. Cutting the first side. Our plug out, make sure our pipe fits, good to go there. Pull our top of circle dimension here. Looks like we are 5 1/4 down. Yep, and that's a pretty good edge. So now all we got to do is go to the inside, cut the exact same thing, shove our pipe through, foam it off. Now we slip our pipe in, and just like that, we have a dryer vent penetration. When I say foam it, I'll show you guys what I mean by that. It's the same foam that we used on the bottom there. But this one here, we will foam to where the concrete cannot come out of this crack. And we will vibrate it a little bit to ensure that there is no void underneath that pipe whenever we pour the concrete. Let's get some foam on it. All right, so you guys can see that there's a little daylight around that pipe. It is nice and level, straight and square. So just like you saw me foam the bottom of the footer, all you do is shoot you some foam around this to ensure that it seals that pipe to the ICF. You do that on the outside, and you also do that on the inside, and the concrete stays in the hole instead of spilling out the crack. The next step is to foam these ends, inside and out, both sides. Same concept. This one's a little bit wider of a gap, so you kind of got to go back and forth to get that foam on the rock and the ICF. It will expand some, but this foam here does not expand like the great stuff, maximum expansion, stuff like that. But it is more of an adhesion than it is an expansion. So all you want to do is keep that concrete from coming out of this. And I may also throw a board from over here over to there just to ensure that that doesn't blow out on these corners. But let's get this foam.
1, 2, 3, come on!
Well, all right, we got everything foamed off. We've got our concrete truck here. Foam came out good. We did tape the top because I'm going up another course. This ensures concrete does not get into those lock mechanisms. We got our 4 crutch legs on the inside staked off with MST bar. Dustin finally showed up for the concrete. Mr.
Hello.
Richard is here. You ready for mud in the hole?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Just if you want to hang out with it, that'd be fine. He's probably got to back up some. It's a little more than half. If you want to back up a little bit. That's good. Yeah, and then you can push it over to the corner. Let her flow to the corner.
Nice and easy. Yeah, Richard, he's inviting me to go ice fishing up there. I guess that's a big thing in Michigan. What do you catch? Perch? How big does perch get? Like how many pounds? 2 pounds? Really?
Here comes the mud. We have ourselves a deflection board down here so that it hits and falls in instead of putting all that pressure on the back side of the wall. Yeah, it's coming.
Good things come to an end.
He asked you something, Dustin. Okay. You can weten it up some. You can give it a drink.
Yeah,
That's a little tight.
that was slick finish.
All right, mud going in the hole. Throw you guys on time lapse up here and get to work. So as you guys saw in the beginning of this pour, the mud was a little dry. We had him give it a little bit of moisture. They can add water to the concrete that is inside this truck. They have so many gallons of water on every truck for every time they bring concrete to a job site. I ordered it at 5.5. It wasn't quite there. And you can see here we're kind of waiting. He's mixing, he's adding water. He's trying to get it closer to a 6 or a 6.5. The issue, it wasn't really an issue, but what we were struggling with is the fact that the concrete was not flowing. Yes, you see me there vibrating the wall. That does help the concrete flow, but it also ensures there's more concrete in the wall, and the more you vibrate it, the more dense the concrete becomes, and that can be a bad thing, especially on that end of the wall where it is foam holding the ICF to the rock. We didn't want to vibrate it too much and cause a blowout. So at the beginning here, we started off a little slow, but we get taken off pretty good and get this thing poured, and it came out really nice. You will notice that we started in the center of that wall and we're working our way back to this corner. We wanted to ensure that we reached as far as we could from this side, knowing that he cannot reach that entire wall from the opposite side after you see here in just a second him drive around the castle and start in the center of that wall. Another thing that you're going to notice is the concrete does not come all the way up to the top of the ICF. The reason I pour it this way is it ensures the bottom two courses have concrete coverage, meaning that wall's 3 foot tall. Essentially, we have half the wall filled up with concrete. I'm not putting too much pressure at the castle where the foam is holding the ICF to the rock. I'm not putting too much pressure on the corners. He's going to drive around the castle, come in the opposite side, and we're going to do the same thing. Fill the other half of this addition up halfway of the ICF height of 3 feet, and then come back around and fill up the first half all the way to the top of the wall, and then drive back around again to fill up the second half to the top of wall. All right, you guys see the concrete truck coming back around the corner. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Boat goes by in the background there on the river. This is where we are going to fill the wall all the way to the top, but it isn't completely to the top. You will notice after he gets this filled, I will take what we call a top-off tool, and I will knock the concrete down essentially an inch to an inch and a half below the top of wall to ensure that we don't have any obstructions in those lock mechanisms for when we go to stack the next layer or courses of ICF on top of these stem walls. If there's concrete down in those male-female indentions, it's a pain in the butt. You got to get in there, you got to remove that concrete, and if that concrete is all the way to the top of the wall spilling over, it just causes major issues. You see there about 10 seconds ago where I took that top off tool and confirmed that it would slide easily in the wall. We're moving some concrete around, and just pay attention to that top off tool I just used right there. I will use that all the way around the entire addition. You guys are going to see Dustin grab a shovel here and start shoveling concrete out of the chute. Sometimes when you're pouring these walls and you don't want the concrete to go all the way to the top, that concrete truck driver only has so much control over the amount of concrete that comes out of his chute. So we slowed him down and decided to top the wall completely out with a shovel, opposed to having overflow, if you will, of concrete coming out of that wall that we waste and or have to move with a shovel anyway. It just made it easier. This isn't a typical process, it's just what we saw would fit best. Also, if you pay close attention while we're waiting on the concrete truck to get around here in this time lapse, if you pay close attention to all of those orange vertical marks on the wall, you'll actually notice there on the left wall that is poured all the way to the top, and that short section that's poured all the way to the top almost to the common there, I have all the vertical rebar in. That is going to be a cold joint from one ICF stem wall to the full height wall that will be for the actual room that goes on the back of the castle here. That cold joint is required to have rebar, ensuring the two are connected to each other. You'll also notice every once in a while I have that right there, that DeWalt drill and that vibrator. That vibrator ensures, again, it densifies the concrete. We don't have any air pockets in that wall, and it is solid concrete from the footer all the way up to where we top it off with that top-off tool there. All right, so we had about a half a yard of concrete left over. So what you see me doing there in the background is making another small frame just for the extra concrete. This is just going to essentially be a 4 foot by 4 foot pad that I can utilize anywhere around the castle for future use. I did put 3 pieces of rebar in it. I didn't want to send a half yard of concrete back, which they essentially would then use to pour into the 2 foot by 4 foot concrete cubes that you can purchase from most concrete supply companies. But for me, with the amount of work that we've got to do here at the castle and the small pads of concrete that we might need as fillers and or supports, this could be used as a small foundation, a small pad to erect something off of, a step pad or something like that. As you guys know, there's a lot of work that's got to go on at the castle, and having extra concrete 4 inches thick supported with the proper rebar is never a bad thing to have on hand. Well, we got the concrete in our forms. It is now time for one last screed off. I'm not concerned about the overall finish of this, as it's probably going to be used, like mentioned just a little bit ago, as a filler. It is now time to gather up all the tools, get the water turned on, get us a bottle of water, and wash off tools. You see the truck back there in the corner. He is also washing off his chute. Get everything cleaned up and call it a day. Well, we got it poured. We got all of our verticals in, vibrated. Everything came out nice and straight. Didn't have any blowouts. I feel good about this pour. Now, one thing that you need to do, I use duct tape. They do sell Superform, and everybody you can buy ICF from sells a packaging tape that's a little wider than this, which would probably do better. This is 2.8 inches wide, so it covered it up really nicely. But you can see there's just a little bit in here that I'm going to have to flake out later. That's not bad. But before your concrete sets up, if you don't take your tape off while the concrete is still a little bit wet, it'll actually just seal the tape down, and it'll end up breaking your tape everywhere and you'll struggle. So you got to get your tape off before that concrete sets up completely. So let's get some tape removed. Well, there you have it, tape removed. You guys can see where there's no concrete down in those lock places, male, female. And once this dries, this will all flake off in one piece, so you really don't want to touch it and let it dry, and it will not adhere to anything. So that entire wall is good to go. Nice and clean. Nice and straight too, if I don't say. Goodness gracious, that looks good. Well, all right, that is the pour. First stem walls are poured. So Richard came to Perry County for the Perry County 4-H Fairgrounds meet and greet, which is tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And you decided, I'm gonna go see if Matt's at the castle today. And you got yourself hired in a heartbeat, didn't you?
Yes, I did get hired in a heartbeat.
Well, sir, we thank you so much.
No problem, Matt.
I'm gonna buy your lunch today at a really nice restaurant right down the road. I'm sure since you're from a different state, you have never eaten that before. So thank you, sir.
Oh, no problem, Matt.
It is
anytime.
Greatly appreciated. For you guys, that's the end of the stem wall pour. The next step is to tear off all of the strapping and all of the cross braces and everything, but that's got to sit for a day at least before we can get back in here and tear it off, because we want that concrete to be 100% cured. So that concludes this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and as always, like, comment, subscribe.